Hi everybody, welcome back to Burns Addiction. So far on Burns Addiction, we've been talking about DJ hi-fi equipment, but what would be the fun in that if we didn't talk about music? The purpose of the series, Don't Sleep, is to talk about records that are currently available that I think are fantastic, that I think you guys should own, and you should not sleep on. It's a combination of both new releases from contemporary artists, as well as represses of records that were out of print, hard to get, that I think are really fantastic and should be a part of your collection. Without further ado, let's talk about some records. So the first record I'd love to speak about is Jards Macale's self-titled debut album from 1972. This record was produced by Jards Macale after he got back from London, where he had been the guitarist on Caetano Veloso's Tranza record, which I believe is Caetano's third record. And it's just a beautiful Brazilian record from the 70s, very similar to the work that he did on Tranza. It has a lot of this beautiful acoustic guitar, but also some very kind of experimental work with things that sound out of tune, some really interesting rhythmic variations. And what's really special is the way Weeknd has done this repress. They did a fantastic job with the jacket. They've done a really incredible job with the pressing. The soundstage is nice and wide. The clarity is phenomenal. This is one of those records that I've wanted for years. And when I would go and try and find it in Brazil or other places, original copies were always, $400, $500 or more, which made it just unviable for me. It was something that I was actually kind of saving up for a special occasion. And then bam, Weeknd Records does this incredible sounding repress, which I'm ecstatic to have. And so this is one of those records that if you're into Brazilian music from the 70s, it's a really good opportunity to get this classic. I don't know how many they've pressed. I don't know how many long they've been around, but it's definitely one that you should not sleep on. Alegria. Second record I'd love to speak about is Alegria by Elia y Elizabeth. This is a record that came out in 1973. It's a duo of two Colombian sisters, and I would describe the sound as a mix of pop with cumbia, salsa, funk, and disco. It's a lot of different genres, which is kind of what makes this record so compelling to me, is the fact that it kind of sounds a little bit like disco boogie, but it has those other Latin elements and the Spanish vocals, which makes it really unique. The way I found out about this record was through a friend of mine, Carlos Tropicaza, who's one of the guys behind Ricos Discos, a famous diggers record store here in Mexico City. He put me onto it, and the jam that I wanted and a lot of diggers want is Alegria, which is the title jam. That's a great track to just mix in a disco set, really unique kind of boogie sound in Spanish. But the rest of the record is actually fantastic as well. It's become my kind of go-to record for Sunday morning brunch at home, really relaxing, but also has some killer dance floor jams on it. This record was pretty difficult to get. An OG right now goes for about $300 on Discogs. This is a Vampy reissue. It was done on clear blue vinyl. Sounds pretty good. I won't say it sounds incredible, but it sounds pretty good. Good enough for you to play it, own it, DJ out with it. And it looks pretty, of course. The sleeve was a little bit flimsy, which I'm not a huge fan of. I really prefer when you have a nice solid sleeve. But overall, I think it's a good investment. Great record to get. Next record is a new one, contemporary artist release. Floating Points, Cascade, the new Floating Points record. A lot obviously in the press around this record. I've been a Floating Points fan since his first release that I can remember, which was Love You Like This, which was just an awesome house track. And then I feel like he's gone from strength to strength on all his releases, kind of culminating last year's Promises release with Pharoah Sanders, which I thought was absolutely beautiful. This record is kind of back to the dance floor, but very analog sounding, which I love. It just sounds like everything is made with analog drum machines, modular synths. It almost sounds like Elia, his first full-length record, if that was a dance floor record. Because I felt like that record, yeah, at times it had like 4/4 and felt dancey. This one feels like it's just geared straight for the dance floor, but with the same type of sounds, textures as Elia. Also love the way Ninja Tune put this out. The cover art is beautiful. It comes with a print inside. The record sounds great. Overall, just a fantastic record release from one of my favorite contemporary artists. So the next record is Okay Temiz, drummer of Two Worlds. Okay Temiz, Turkish percussionist, played on Don Cherry's band. This record was originally released in 1980 when he was living in Sweden. And it is a awesome record of like dark Turkish psychedelic jazz. The first track on here, East Breeze, is a well-known sort of killer 45 of Turkish jazz music. Almost sounds like proto acid house, but in acoustic jazz form. I know that sounds crazy. You should definitely check it out. And Cascade, which is the label, Turkish label that repressed this, I think did a really good job, both with the sleeve as well as with the mastering and sound quality. And I know that because last year when I was in Istanbul, I actually picked up an original 45 of East Breeze by Temiz, one of my rarest 45s. And I've compared the sound quality, and the repress does sound excellent. If you don't have this record, you don't have anything by Temiz, highly recommend it. There's both kind of dancehall records you can play on here, but also just amazing home listening. It's really challenging music at times. The percussion is really intense, but it's super duper cool. I highly recommend you get that record. Last record is Mariah, Utakata no Hibi. I probably butchered the pronunciation of that. This is a Japanese record, came out in 1983. I think this is what many people call a cult record. And the reason for that is I think this was basically a known record amongst Japanese diggers, and a lot of people didn't know about it until Optimo, the Scottish DJ duo, put one or two of those tracks on some of their mixes, and then it kind of opened up the world's eyes to this unique record. I would say that it's kind of 80s Japanese prog jazz, similar to Cassiopeia or Prism or even Yellow Magic Orchestra. But what makes it unique is that the vocals are in Armenian and a lot of the melodies are Middle Eastern. And so you just have a very unique sound collage of kind of really cool 80s Japanese prog with the synths and the electric guitars, drum machines mixed with this Armenian vocals, Middle Eastern influence, giving it kind of like a very ethereal, trippy feeling. It's been reissued a couple of times. I just picked up the 2024 Everland Psych repress. They've done an amazing job. It's a double LP, gatefold, pressed out 45 RPMs. And what's unique about that situation is being pressed at 45 makes it fantastic for DJing, but it's not exactly the best for home listening. You gotta flip it 4 times to get through it. And it is the kind of record where you can kind of just listen to it and bliss out. And so maybe you'd prefer to flip it only once. That said, I'd always side on the side of sound quality. And so obviously it sounds fantastic on 45. So really, really cool, unique record. Highly recommend you grab this reissue by Everland Psych. All right, thank you everybody for tuning in again to Burns Addiction. I hope you guys enjoyed the first edition of Don't Sleep. As you all know, YouTube has some pretty strict copyright rules. I really wanted to play music during these videos, but I didn't want to risk getting the video pulled down or the channel taken away. So what I'm doing is creating a Spotify playlist where I'll pick 2 to 3 tracks off of each of these records and share them that way. So we'll share the Spotify link here in the description as well as on my Instagram. Also on the Instagram, I've been making videos every day, sharing stories of what I'm playing at home. So if you like my selection and you want to know what else I'm listening to, follow my Instagram. That's a good way to just find out what I'm playing. Lastly, wanted to hear from you guys. Did you guys like my selections? Are there other records out there that I shouldn't sleep on myself? Drop your comments, send us a DM. That's it. Please hit like, follow, subscribe. Thank you, and catch you next time. Cheers.